Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to the first episode of Season 2 of Chasing Energy. I believe this is around episode number 17 for me, something like that. But you'll also notice that moving forward, I'm going to have video that accompanies all the podcasts so that we can stream it to different platforms. And for those of you who prefer video, it will be there. I am Daniel Lucas, by day and by trade. I am a VP of Innovation. I was an endurance athlete and ultra runner for a little over 10 years. In the last year or two, I'm mostly focused on how I can help you develop habits for sustainable energy, insights for sustainable energy. Think of having kids now and how do you have the amount of energy to set a healthy lifestyle for them and have the energy to be a good employee / executive, and then also be efficient with your own partner, spouse, and be fulfilled and have the energy to do all those things. During my first season, I noticed that a lot of my guests, when I asked them, if you were to help somebody with their energy, what was the first thing you would offer them? The most common thing they would come back to me with was, how did they sleep? I struggle with sleep. And in fact, I was journaling a few months ago and wrote in my journal, I am declaring war on my sleep, it sounds a little aggressive, but the truth of the matter is I had been letting it slide where some nights were good, some nights weren't. And it was really interfering with my life, not only with how I behaved around other people. I was a little less patient, but also it affected my training a lot too, because if I don't get the sleep, my training is either terrible or non-existent the next day. And you don't have to really be a scientist to figure out, you do that enough times, it starts to impact the rest of your life and the rest of your health. It was especially difficult being an executive and saying, I've got certain things that require 100% of my focus today. And if I didn't have that sleep, it was so difficult to step up to that benchmark. So I've become very proactive about protecting my sleep. With that being said, today's guest is Radfar. He is a speaker who talks about sleep apnea. He's also a practicing dentist in California. His specialty is sleep apnea. He fits patients for the Mouthpiece for sleep apnea at his practice. He is also the CEO of Rad Health. They have supplements that help with different things. There's one for your jaw. There's one in this episode, we mentioned his Rad Z's supplement, which is an all-natural supplement. By the way, I have tried it a few times. It is pretty good. Dar's Instagram is Rad Health Inc. if you want to look him up. And we will cover his life-changing events, the first signs of sleep apnea. One phrase that I drop in here, I used to have a phrase that sex, money, and food don't matter that much until you haven't had them in a while. You can now add sleep to that list because I have noticed if I don't have good sleep for 2 days, nothing else matters more than getting back to bed and getting a great night's rest. I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to help me with that. This is what we call Me Search. And we get into some sleep hygiene best practices, the stages of sleep apnea. And in fact, he throws out a few statistics. One is that when people get the sleep apnea mask, only 21% of patients tolerate it, but around 90% of patients tolerate the Mouthpiece. Now, again, this is according to him, but that's a pretty staggering statistic. And what I would hope people take away from that is if you've tried the mask and it didn't work out for you, give the Mouthpiece a try. You want to protect that sleep. What a sleep cycle looks like and being specific and deliberate about what you try when you try different things to improve your sleep. That's my personal approach. I'm very scientific with adding and removing things because what I want for you is to know exactly what works for you. And when you try a bunch of things at once and you get a little better, it's hard to know which one of those did it or if there was a synergistic effect between multiple things. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this podcast. My ask of you, especially now that I've got this video going, throw a review somewhere on this. If you listen on a podcast platform, throw a review on there. If not, subscribe to the video. Show a little support. Let me know that you're listening and that the content is landing with you. I hope you have a great day. Radfar, how are you today?
Great. How are you?
I am great, man. We had a great pre-call, and I'm excited to talk to you for a couple of reasons. But before I do, I want you to give a little bit of a bio about yourself.
Yeah. So actually a dentist. 20 years ago, I became a dentist from the U.S. University of Southern California, USC here in Los Angeles area. And the main thing that happened to me, the thing that really, really changed my life was in 2009, about 7 years after I graduated dental school. I was, just your typical general dentist doing a lot of different kinds of procedures. I fell asleep, unfortunately, at the wheel, and I crashed my car into a tree going 40 miles an hour. At that time, I was 32 years old. I'm 6 foot tall, about 160 pounds. So I didn't think I had any sleep issues. I was told that I do have some snoring, especially when there's some alcohol involved. But that night, well, I just was tired. And on the way home, fell asleep, crashed my car. The car got completely totaled a block away from the house. And that kind of woke me up. I thought I knew I had some sort of a problem. I was more tired throughout the day, less energy to be with my kids. My focus at work was like by 5 o'clock, 5:30, I just didn't even want to go to the gym. I was just more tired. And so I got a home sleep test. Nowadays, you can have that. I had to go to the lab, and it revealed that I have mild sleep apnea. So they gave me this god-awful oxygen machine called a CPAP, and couldn't tolerate it. A year later, the Mouthpiece came out, and I was one of the first dentists to get trained to do it. And so I'm here to speak about sleep, insomnia, sleep apnea, snoring, all that. I'm trying to help everyone who's out there who's listening to this, that they themselves or a father or a mother or a friend that has issues sleeping. This could lead to serious medical problems, let alone dangerous.
Quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life.
Quality of life in general. There's really no way to have a great day, at least if you haven't had good sleep for 2 nights in a row. You could probably push through the first night or two, but when it's been two, I've always found if it's 2 or 3 nights in a row, it's hard to achieve joy, is what I find. And that's a big part of why I asked you to be on here is from a quality of life perspective, sleep is so integral. So I want to start by saying I used to have a phrase that I would tell my friends, and that is food, money, and sex don't matter that much till you haven't had it for a long time, right? I would add sleep to that equation because once you haven't had good sleep in a week, it feels like it's been years. It feels like you would give any amount of money, which I completely empathize for people who go, please just give me a pill that's going to knock me out so I don't have to sit there and stare at the ceiling with this anxiety of I'm not getting enough rest. I'm not getting enough rest. And with all the anxiety that has been going on the last few years, is it any wonder why we have more sleep problems? It starts this vicious cycle of I'm afraid I'm not going to get rested. I lay down and I'm not resting, and I'm not resting because I'm afraid I'm not going to get rest. So I want to start off by asking you a few questions because you do talk about that car crash. How old were you when it happened?
I was 32.
32. Okay.
Yep.
And what time of the day was it that the crash occurred?
It was 10:05 p.m.
PM. Okay. So there's two things that I wanted to point out about your car crash. Number one is you're not at the age where you would generally think sleep apnea would be an issue, which you kind of covered that. The other one is that 10 o'clock is not terribly late, right? It wasn't like you were a doctor that was on call till 2:30 in the morning and you were on your way home after pulling a 24-hour shift. It just hit you. So these are things that I'm sort of piecemealing together of why sleep apnea applies to people more than we might think, right? So the first thing I want to hit you with is to say, what is the first signs that someone listening says, I probably ought to consider looking into getting a sleep test?
Yeah, it's a great question, Daniel. So really today what we're discussing is how I'm going to give you guys tips on how to sleep better in so many different formats. And more importantly, how to know that you're that kind of a person that needs possibly some sort of help with sleep, whether it's insomnia or sleep apnea, which is two different things. And so being tired throughout the day, daytime sleepiness is the number one indicator. Now people go, oh man, I got so much on my plate. I got the kids, I got work, I'm tired. I stay up late to do emails. I watch Netflix until 3 a.m. and I've got to wake up at 6:30 and make my day happen. Yeah, of course. If you're extending your nighttime into, late into the night, and you're waking up super early, you only got 4 to 5 hours, you're going to be tired. But a consistency tired throughout the day, dozing off at work, watching TV, dozing off, being in a passenger seat and falling asleep, let alone driving the car. Also, more importantly, the biggest thing, just not having enough energy and patience for your family, for your loved ones, for work, for going to the gym. Just not having that drive is an indication. Now, I'm getting old. That's why it's happening. Well, it behooves us, and a third of our life is spent sleeping. About 6 to 8 hours a day is supposed to be for sleep. So we need to figure that out. We need to see how bad is it. Now, if there is snoring involved, that could be an indication. Now, people say, I don't have a bed partner. Well, there's a lot of apps out there now that can record your snoring. One's called Snore Lab, LAD.
You get a snore score, right?
Yep, exactly. And you can hear yourself, and so if you don't have a bed partner, you can also hear yourself kind of like do that gasping kind of breathing too. That could be an indication. So if there's no bed partner, so there's really few things here. Being more tired throughout the day. If there's a bed partner, they'll probably be able to tell you, hey, look, there's some snoring. Snoring could be signs that you're not breathing well. And of course, that energy level is not the same. And it should be checked out by a physician. I personally am a dentist, but I look in people's mouths. I can look at the airway and help them with an oral appliance, and as opposed to wearing a mask if they're a candidate for one. So that's how I got to become a sleep specialist.
Yeah, and I'll add a few things you're saying. You can correct me here, but there are some basic. If you listen to a lot of these podcasts, like I do, there's a lot of basic sleep hygiene things you can do before you get to that phase. But what you're pointing out though is people are saying, well, I push through. And what I'm trying to say is if you do the basic sleep hygiene and that's not working, then you need to escalate it to a sleep apnea approach. And here's a couple of sleep hygiene things. Did you make sure that you had an hour between screen time and bed? Did you do you get up at the same time every day? And I'll give you a classic example. People who sleep in every other day, I try to tell them, I was like, you're totally ruining your clock when you sleep till 10 o'clock one day and you get up at 7 the next. It's you're doing this cycle. If you've ever been around or lived with people who work third shift and then they try to live normal on the weekends, it's a total mess, that type of thing. So those are some basic sleep hygiene things. Alcohol, you need to be real careful with the amount of alcohol you have before bed because it actually deters from your REM sleep, right? Where you think you sleep great when you have alcohol, or at least a lot of people do, but you fall asleep easy. It's the deep sleep and stay asleep that you're being robbed of. So that's a sort of a segue for you to talk about the catch and the caveats with people who take sleep aids.
Right. And just before I do that, you brilliantly said reduce your blue screen time with your phones and the computers, at least, especially for kids. Boys,
blue light, yeah.
Yeah, the blue light has been a tendency to have children grind their teeth at night. I've had so many people come into my office, my 7-year-old's grinding their teeth. Get them off electronics at least an hour, if not a couple hours. TV, like being 10, 15 feet away is okay, but any handheld electronic, you really want to stay away from. And there's also medical conditions for some of us that can indicate, hey, I have high blood pressure, I have acid reflux, depression. These also could be indicators of poor sleep. So we looked at the social aspect, the snoring, the tiredness, and there's also medical components that are related to sleep. So we should be aware if there is a medical, we call it comorbidity or something associated with sleep, such as high blood pressure, acid reflux, depression. The second leading cause of erectile dysfunction is sleep apnea, actually, not getting enough oxygen. These are all indications that we need to speak to our doctor to get a home sleep test. So segmenting into what you were talking about, what do people do, right? Nowadays, it's I get these, after treating over 7,000 sleep patients, when they come back to my office, I'm like, so how you sleeping? They're like, well, the mouthpiece is working or my mask is working, but I can't shut off my brain. COVID, Zoom meetings, kids, relationships, your own, self growth that you're trying to, all these things that we're all trying to do and juggle. Tylenol PM, Advil PM, Xanax, Ambien, Benadryl, even some could be over the counter. They're still drugs. They're still liver toxic. They're still bad for your kidneys. And we all know that they still may make you wake up and feel groggy, right?
Right. And that's what I was going to say was even if you were to overlook the toxicity and the interaction issues, it's helping you fall asleep. You're not actually feeling more rested, at least on the long term.
Right. And that the problem with these medications, including things like Benadryl, Tylenol, PM, NyQuil, it does help you fall asleep. That's an excellent point. But when you shut the mind off, if the breathing is minimized, meaning there's some obstruction from snoring or the tongue falls back far enough that causes an obstruction called sleep apnea, your mind is shut off and it's not able to kind of wake itself up to take that deep breath. So your breathing or your apnea gets worse with alcohol or any sedative like NyQuil and Benadryl and all these things. So it's really dangerous to take something over the counter, be in an apneic event that you have absolutely no idea that you're going through, and then stay in that apneic event, meaning oxygen not coming in, you're not waking or moving from left to right. And that causes your heart to beat faster, to get oxygen to the brain, increasing your risk of heart disease, heart attack, stroke, not enough oxygen to the brain. And you don't have to be 60, 70, 80 years old. I've had patients that come to my office as young as 28 who had a stroke in the middle of the night, and now their left side's numb and they're, can't tolerate the CPAP machine, and I'm making them a mouthpiece. And they had no idea this was happening. All they thought was, I was just feeling a little more tired throughout the day. So really, we got to be careful with any over-the-counter stuff. And if we're self-medicating with Xanax and Ambien and Lunesta and all these other prescription drugs, Valium, we really need to make sure the breathing is okay before we even touch that stuff.
Excellent points. Excellent point. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
When they come to you and say, I think I have sleep apnea, what is stage one? Do you have the mouthpiece? Is that, describe the mouthpiece that is the first phase.
Yeah, so there's three stages of sleep apnea. One is if you stop breathing up to about 15 times an hour. Believe it or not, 15 times an hour sounds a lot, right? But if you stop breathing up to 15 times, you're a stage 1 or mild. 16 to 30 is moderate. Over 30 times an hour, you're a severe patient. Majority of patients, 80% of patients fall in the mild and moderate, so under 30 times an hour. And they're good candidates for a CPAP, an oxygen machine, or a mouthpiece. Surgery can help, tonsils, adenoid removal, removing the uvula on the back of the neck. Those can help as well. But really the best choice of treatment is CPAP, oxygen mask. But unfortunately, only 21% on average of patients tolerate it. The other 79% give the machine back to their doctor and say, I can't do this. The mouthpiece is more than 90% toleration or compliance. So it's much more.
When you say mouthpiece, though, is it hooked up to the piece that's bringing the air, or is it just a mouthpiece in general to keep you from grinding?
Yeah, great question. It's not like a night guard. It's not a night guard. A night guard is strictly for grinding. It's an upper and lower appliance that's custom fitted, that has little hinges on the side that slightly bring your lower jaw together. So it goes in upper and lower and opens up your airway, kind of like a CPR position of your jaw. So the airway is kept open. So when you're asleep, your jaw relaxes and the tongue falls back. The jaw is slightly kept in a forward position to keep the airway open.
Yeah. And are those I saw some on the internet, they had a little blue bar in there. Are they adjustable or?
Yes. Yeah. Depending on the number of times you stop breathing. The custom fitted one by most dentists that nowadays are really getting trained to do this. You could, ask your dentist if he or she does not know. They'll know how to refer you to one to make you an appliance. They're adjustable, and it all depends on how much air you need. Usually you start at a certain starting point. If it's working for you, snoring, energy, all that's back, or your energy's back, the snoring's gone, great. If not, it can be cranked or advanced more forward to bring the lower jaw more forward to give room between the back of the palate there and the tongue.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about where your supplement fits in on how often these air changes, or you talked about was 15 to 30 was moderate and below.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where Something really exciting happened. Sadly, COVID has been very challenging over the last couple of years. But for me, the exciting part of it was me hearing all this anxiety, insomnia, all these complaints from my patients, and all these drugs that people are taking to sleep. I decided, you know what? I need to make this a little bit more healthy, right? We want to be more health conscious. How can I make a supplement that's all natural, that can get away from feeling groggy? And if can I make something that not only deals with anxiety and helping you fall asleep, but can I put something in there that actually helps you breathe better, helps to like have less mucus and buildup in the back of the lungs, and actually act as a natural expectorant of the lungs, so you can take more like a meditation, yoga, deep breathing, therefore giving you deeper sleep. So I call it the Fab Five. Five fabulous ingredients that I messed around with a couple of years ago, put together and created what's called Radzs. The kids at the office call me Dr. Rad, short for Dr. Radfar. And everything that I've created in the Rad brand is really to give you rad sleep. So it's Radzs. And I've formulated stuff for the jaw and for gum recession and for helping with bad breath. This specific formulation is all natural, and it helps basically not only for you to fall asleep, to stay asleep, but also lower your sleep apnea by about 30%. So if your number is, let's say, 10, you can go down to a 7. And the National Institute of Health.gov has actually done research on these ingredients to show the efficacy with sleep tests, the before and after the natural supplement, to be able to give you a 30% reduction. Now, of course, supplements are not meant to treat disease. They're supposed to help prevent disease. And this, though, it does have clinical studies that show that it actually helps with breathing. Mm-hmm. The snoring actually has been shown to reduce snoring by about 52% in the sound of your snore. And most people can tolerate a light snore, and 55% in the duration. So let's say you sleep 6 hours, you snore for 2. On an average basis, it decreases the snoring by about 55% in duration. So about an hour of it, if you're snoring for 2 hours. So I've really, why are we talking, right? At the end of the day, you take a supplement, you don't feel groggy, you check your sleep to make sure you don't have sleep apnea. What are you going to feel like the next day? How's your energy level? Like Daniel, how are you doing with your sleep? Let's ask you.
Oh, well, I sought you out because I was journaling a couple of weeks ago and said I am declaring war on my sleep because I was having a particular issue. But I can tell you that the difference between a good night's sleep and a bad night's sleep is it's very clear for me, because there's no way I'm going to be able to execute an intense morning workout after a bad night's sleep. If it's 2 bad nights in a row, I'll be doing good to get my afternoon walk in. It's just a struggle. So that's how I feel. If I have a good night's sleep, which means 7-ish consecutive hours, I'll get up once or twice in that, wake up once or twice in there. If I get 7 hours, I can come out of bed swinging, and I'm ready to take on the world. So that you asked that is that what you're asking about?
Yeah. That yours affect your goal from getting good sleep was working out to stay healthy, right?
Oh, well, that's a side effect. Yeah. The goal was to just enjoy my life, but yeah,
right. Perfect.
The first side effect I notice in the morning is I'll go, I have to scrap the morning workout. It's not going to happen because I woke up at 2 and I fell back to sleep at 4, and then my alarm went off at 5:45.
Right. Yeah, and I'm hoping most people will try to. We all hope that we can do a little bit more exercise and whatnot. But really, what you just nailed it. Sleep is trying to just to live a happier life. Yeah. I mean, the mood and depression, your attitude with your staff, with your boss, with your kids.
With my kids.
Yeah, with your kids, right? You get snappy.
I feel right? I get it's a domino effect. Dar, it's where if I haven't had it in 2 nights, my kids will start noticing, man, Dad's kind of snappy today, or he doesn't say much, he's kind of keeping to himself. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I can't wait to go to bed tonight and hope that I catch up tonight. That's what's going through my head. Is it's 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm already tired, and I'm thinking, I got to stay up for at least 3 more hours so I don't screw up my sleep schedule. And then hopefully tonight's the night I catch up.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's really why I formulated. Remember, I suffered from sleep. I almost died in that accident, and so it starts. it's not just sleep apnea. It is anxiety induced. Also, it can be that leads to insomnia. Our mind, as you said earlier in the talk, sometimes that we get in bed and we're thinking, okay, we want to rest, but then there's something we need to do tomorrow, and there's something that we still haven't finished. Should we get up and do it?
Monkey mind. Yeah.
Well, it's just this constant. And I swear to you, in the 80s and 90s and even early 2000, we weren't experiencing this as much. I really do think technology has kind of made us a little bit more.
I completely agree.
Right? I mean,
I think the brain, we have associated boredom as some type of evil thing that, because you never have to be free to think as long as that phone is within reach. And they've done studies, even if your phone is turned off, but it's next to you, like where you're working and it's just sitting there staring at you, your brain is still going, should I check it? Should I check it? Should I check it? But if you put it in another room, it is much more easy to get in a state of deep thought. Well, no different than turning it off, right? You have to get to a point where you go, I got to separate. The worst thing you can do when you're laying in bed, in my opinion, is start opening your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed or things like that, because it gets your brain firing that dopamine, it gets the channel going, and it's like, it's time to push through. I wonder what's going on.
So, you know what it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm guilty of it, right? I do a lot of social media now on at Rad Health Inc. is my handle for Instagram and Facebook and all that. And the cool thing about when I take my own supplement, and I take it every night, I've tested my supplement. Hey, look, I'm really tired tonight. I don't need to take a supplement. I'm good. No Rad Z's for tonight. Boom. I'm up at 1:30 after I fall asleep around 10:30. I'm like, oh man, I should have, right? I've tested it.
Yeah.
But even when I'm on my phone, which again, we're advising not to be, right? All of a sudden, 20 to 30 minutes after I take my supplement, I'm ready to fall asleep. I'm not focusing anymore on whoever's Instagram handle that I'm looking at. I'm ready to put it down and put the charger in and fall asleep. And you can record your sleep right now, tonight, right? Download Snore Lab or any other. Just look up under the app section, sleep evaluation or sleep analysis, and see how you sleep. It's a good starting point. But we already know what we're feeling, right, Daniel? Like you're not feeling right.
And that's the caveat. Look, I have a 20 years in an IT background, so technology has its place. But at the end of the day, regardless of what that score is telling you, you have to wake up and go, how do I feel, right? Because if you're wearing an Aura ring and it says you slept great and you wake up feeling terrible, something's misaligned there. Okay. I love tech. I'm not against tech here. And in fact, I was also going to add, I don't know if you know this, the Google Hub, the one that people keep by their bed or in their kitchen. It's a screen. It has a sleep function that will count the amount of times you toss and turn and the amount of snoring you do. Okay. And it'll give you a score. All you have to do is ask it, what is my sleep score? And it'll tell you on the screen there. This is when you went to bed. This is when you got up. And this is how much snoring you did. Right. So know that there's a lot of options out there. You don't have to buy an Oura Ring, but there's so much technology out there to help you assess. And a big part of what I wanted from this interview was to start leading people down that path. Don't just assume you need to go get the same Ambien that your friend got. Start looking at this as a problem you have to solve, and it's multifactorial. You talked about comorbidity, type things. You need to look at it. What are the factors that are easy to knock out? And we just talked about a couple of them, whether it was sleep hygiene type stuff, screen time. Do you do a wind down? I started on New Year's. I didn't make it an intentional New Year's resolution, but around New Year's, I thought, I'm going to start doing 20 minutes of yoga before bed. It actually, because my back used to get really tight, it actually helped me sleep so much better because for one, it became my cue. It's time for bed. My brain began to go, oh, we're going to do this 20 minutes of things, and then it's time to crawl straight into bed, and we don't look at anything else after that. The second part was my back used to get tight, and it gave me a little bit more flexibility and relief from back pain, which would wake me up in the night. These are sleep hygiene things. Then you go up to what Dr. Rad is talking about of getting the sleep test, looking in the supplements, but you got to start at the bottom, work your way up. At the end of the day, it's well well worth it to invest in your sleep. And I don't care if we're talking about money, insurance, time, trying and experimenting and removing one thing at a time, right? Trying, a supplement for 2 or 3 nights. See if it makes a difference. Be scientific about what's happening. And again, this is the scientific part of me that's digressing right here. But don't do 5 things at once, because then you don't know what worked and what made it worse and all those things.
Yeah, one of the major things is just as you were talking about the sleep hygiene is stay away from anything like coffee or energy drinks 8 hours before bedtime at least. I mean, some people don't touch it after 2 p.m. to be able to sleep by 10, right?
We had a personal trainer on, and he had a rule. It's called the 10-3-2-1. It's 10 hours between your last drop of caffeine in bed. 3, I think, was your last work email. 2 was your last hour of screen time, and then I forgot what one.
And Daniel, guess what? There's some listeners right now that are going, are you kidding me? There's no way I can't function without my cup of coffee at 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock. That's the person that needs to have their sleep evaluated. If you need a cup of coffee or a Monster or a Red Bull to be able to finish the afternoon, look, a little sip of coffee because you're having a little dessert after lunch, okay. But if you need it to be able to function at work or go get the kids and all this other stuff, your sleep something is going on. You either have insomnia or sleep apnea. And if it's the breathing issues, again, bed partner, record, get a home sleep test. If it's the anxiety and whatnot, or a combination, hence why I created the supplement. Drugs are not the answer. I've taken them before. I've taken Tylenol PM and Advil PM, and I've even tried CBD oils, right? We can go into that. People say, "Oh, is it okay I take a gummy every night?" By the way, that's still a drug, even though it's legal in some of the states now. You're still taking the drug, and it also helps you fall asleep, just like alcohol, but it doesn't get you into the REM. What happens in REM, Daniel? Growth hormone, leptin production. Leptin is the best to increase your metabolism at rest. It helps burn belly fat. All these things that we're trying to be more healthy. You need to get deeper sleep, and you can't do that with alcohol and drugs. And that's the sad part about it. But naturally, what we talked about, you can get back into that cycle, same sleep patterns, same sleep time. And it does work. You just have to put effort into it.
Yeah, I do put a lot of research of my time in research in following centenarians and some of their habits, but going to bed at they're big on routines. Most any blue zone in the world is going to be big on routines. I mean, we eat at this time, we sleep at this time, we spend time together at this time. And I believe sleep hygiene is critical part of that equation. I think of the worst years that I aged myself, and it was bar none from about 25 to about 33. That was when my son was born. I have a couple kids, but I was getting maybe 5 hours of sleep a night and drinking 2 pots of coffee a day because I was working overtime in my job constantly, and then I went to school 4 nights a week and I got my master's degree. Horrible decision I made years ago of just push through. And I feel like there's a big part of me that still is like, if I had rested properly during that duration, I would have a better quality of life. So I like you had this sort of physical, and most people, by the way, who come on the podcast or even me, they have some pivotal experience where they go, I now see the light. This is not a joke. And I'm going to spend a good part of my time and effort for the rest of my life convincing people that they can be a better person if they don't make the same mistake I did. In your case, hitting a tree. And in my case, I gave up all my energy for in pursuit of short-term goals. And I'm trying to teach people you got to have sustainable habits in place. So with the coffee, especially if you have a friend that says, oh, I can have a double espresso and fall right asleep. The caveat there is I would bet you money that if we measured their REM sleep, it's terrible.
Yeah, there's actually studies. Yeah, there's actually studies that do that. Well, when I have coffee, I actually sleep better. Okay, let's do a sleep analysis of the 5 hours or 6 hours that you did sleep. your hormone production of growth hormone, leptin, the recuperation of your immune cells, which is huge. I mean, a crazy study came out that showed poor sleep affects your immunity, which makes you more susceptible to viruses, the flu, common cold, and of course, COVID. More serious infection, more because your immune cells are not replenishing and they're not actively oxygenated, and your body's not rested enough to fight it. I remember pulling all-nighters back in dental school 20 something years ago. I swear to you, the next day or two, I had a scratchy throat. Poor sleep, you get like run down, you feel like you're getting sick, right? I mean, we've all been there.
What usually happens, what I find, whenever you have a big milestone, and for me, for example, it might have been when I was training for Ironman, or when I was going to do finals, and when I was in school, or I had some big work presentation, I would just totally crash right after it was over, where I would either get sick or I would find myself laying in bed till noon and going, I am doing all I can just to get out of this bed. So I'm with you. It's like we push right up to that point, and then we open ourselves to all the immune deficiencies and all those things that come along with it.
Yeah, and we expressed earlier, there was a big question because a lot of people are right now. Let's gather our thoughts. How can I know if I'm really sleeping poorly?
Yeah.
We talked about the energy and all that. There's also a few other things that are you don't have to yet get a sleep study to know that this is happening. Frequent nighttime urination, to get up in the middle of the night to go pee once, twice, 3 times. And it's not just because you had a glass of water right before you went to bed. It's not just because you have an enlarged prostate. Multiple night urination is a really big indicator of sleep apnea. When you don't breathe well, you get into this fight or flight mode in your sleep, which kind of causes you to actually produce more urine. The fight or flight mode is the way we get ready to fight the lion, is to excrete all our bodily fluids, and urine production is one of them, right? So if you have frequent nighttime urination, bam, you got to get your sleep checked with your doctor. It's not just give me medication for my prostate or drink less water before we go to bed. The other thing is acid reflux. 60% of patients who have phlegm in the morning or are very prone to reflux or GERD when we drink alcohol or have spicy, is a result of them gasping for air and pushing the stomach acid, kind of the diaphragm, up into their breathing area, and doing that deep, trying to breathe and struggle causes that esophageal sphincter to get destroyed, hence more reflux. So those are kind of, I call it at-home tests, so to speak, that you can just ask yourself: am I getting up too many times to go to the restroom, more than once? Do I have reflux and phlegm in the morning when you sound like grandpa hucking a loogie into the sink?
Yeah.
These are also indicate headaches in the morning, not enough oxygen to the brain, clenching and grinding. The dentist tells you, you know what, Daniel, you're grinding your teeth, and you're like, okay, this guy's just trying to get me to buy a night guard. Well, how am I grinding my teeth when my mouth's wide open and I'm snoring? When you get that obstruction, even a slight bit of obstruction of oxygen, you get aggressive and your teeth slam against each other and you grind, and your lower front teeth start wearing down. Look in the mirror. If you see your lower front teeth worn down, that's an indicator of poor sleep. And so these are little, I call it perils, that I like to give my patients, or anytime I do a talk like this. Is look at it yourself. If there is a concern, take a sleep supplement, take a home sleep test, get it evaluated so we can tell, is it just insomnia, or is it actually something even worse, which is sleep apnea. Now, I want to ask you something, Daniel. Bed partner, right? It affects the person you sleep next to.
Yes.
If you're single, how embarrassing is it knowing that you're going to be sleeping next to somebody for the first time and you snore like crazy and they're tossing and turning and trying to elbow you, right? Or how many people do you know don't sleep in the bed together, right? As married couple, or is it a couple that's together?
Yeah.
And this is affecting your social life, right? It could affect your social life, right? And so how do we help with that? Right. And then those are the types of times where you got to get tested. You got to try. I've had patients tell me, Doc, since I've been taking your supplement RADZs, I'm snoring less and my wife's back in the room. I'm like, you're welcome. I have some NFL players that take the supplement, and they've been they're the big, a little bit of a bigger stature, so to speak. They're the ones who tell me, yeah, the phlegm's less in my airway. This socially, it's a big deal as well, not just medically.
Yeah. I do have one question from a guest that I polled around a few people, which I think I've mostly addressed their questions. But one person stated, and this could be anecdata, but I'm just curious of your opinion. Have you had any people that snored more after they had children?
Are we talking about men or women?
No, women.
Okay, because I think men just get tired more, right? Because I'm also probably waking up. So women usually will end up snoring more if they've gained weight and they can't get the weight off. So I'm looking at you right now through the screen here, and you look like you're in great shape. I think you can see me. I'm 172 pounds and I'm 6 foot tall. I work out 4 or 5 days a week. And I still have sleep apnea. And it got worse for me over the last 13 years. How does it get worse? If you're overweight, you lose weight. There's less fat constricting around the neck. Air goes in, less, it's almost like someone's suffocating you back there. So therefore the snoring can decrease. But if you're not overweight or slightly overweight, your snoring can get worse as you get older, period, because the tongue, just like any other muscle, talk, swallow, chew, all that, gets fatter. And that back of the throat where the soft palate, that little punching bag where the uvula is, that will sag and droop as we get older, just like unfortunately everything else. And that distance between the big fat tongue and the droopy soft palate gets less. So we have a tendency to snore as we age, period. So with women out there, if you've had kids, your sleep for the rest of your life will get disrupted, right? We used to sleep 8 hours, sometimes 10 when we were single or married without any kids. All of a sudden, you wake up every 3 hours, you're up at 6 a.m. Now, our kids are grown, and we're still up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday morning, even though we went to bed at midnight. It's horrible, right? But saying that, when you sleep next to a snore and you don't snore, you're at 3.6 times higher risk of a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So with all due respect to everyone who has a bed partner, if you snore and you're not trying to help yourself, let alone all the things we talked about, your bed partner is suffering. Why? You're breaking them out of the REM sleep, which is the rejuvenated sleep with all the hormones and all. You're affecting their healing, which is a recovery period for sleep.
Yeah, and on a similar note, I've heard from if one of the partners consumes too much alcohol, both of you suffer because the one person is going to toss and turn all night, and even if they don't remember it, and it causes both of your sleep to be disrupted. So when you have a partner, it's a team sport, right? So sleep is a team sport. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do have a partner who snores, and it's affecting you, what do you end up doing? You go to another bedroom. You go sleep on the couch, right?
So Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, he wrote a memoir, and one of the things I remember from his book was when he was getting married, he had a rule with his wife when they got married that if either one of them thought that they should go to therapy, the other person wasn't allowed to object. So maybe you could take that rule and say, for couples, if either one of you think you have a sleeping problem, you're allowed to send that person there, and the other one's not allowed to object because it's interfering with both of the quality of your lives and, in essence, your relationship.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of patients come in. They're like, my wife sent me. Apparently I snore. And she recorded me. And if she bumps me and I go on my side, it helps. But I feel great. I feel like I could run a marathon tomorrow. I don't have any energy issues. I just snore. And those are the patients who need an oral appliance, or they need to use a supplement like Rad-Z that lowers the snoring because it has a natural expectorant to remove that phlegm and the mucus in the back and help give you deeper breaths. So there is a solution. It may not be aggressive, but if you snore, you should get a home sleep test by your physician, whether it's HMO, Medi-Cal, PPO, doesn't matter. And then you'll know knowledge is power. It's almost like, do I have high blood pressure? Well, I'm amped and I got really aggressive, but you don't know until you put a blood pressure cuff on, right? Until you check your pulse, you don't know you need the number to figure out if you need, what kind of help do you need?
They used to teach us, I was a trained statistician, and they would tell you, you can't manage what you don't measure. So that this is no different. And that's why I was going back to the scientific method. You would never tell somebody, start a CPAP machine and Ambien next week and tell me how you sleep.
Yep.
Because you're taking all these things and solutions, combining them into one. And start CBD too while you're at it. And and also start your sleep hygiene thing. You start and you step and you do it methodically, so you go, right here. And as much as we hate to hear, we need to run some tests, we need to try some things. If you're older like me, you want the solution. You don't want to basically just get a week worth of sleep. You want to say, I want to know so that next time this happens, I know exactly how to address it. And that's what I love about your approach is you're educating people. There are stages you can do. There are procedures you can take. And with our technology, there's no excuse not to at least know that you are a snorer or that you're disruptive sleep, and et cetera.
Yeah, and you said starts in the beginning. Like, what can you do tonight, right? After you listen to this, you can definitely try to stay away from the blue screen from your electronics. Good luck. That would be perfect, right? We all wanted to do that. You can definitely stay away from the caffeine and the stimulants at least 10 hours before bedtime, right? Let's try to see if we could do that, right? Then there's the approach of trying to take a natural supplement, such as my supplement, Radz's. You could do that. Then it's like, okay, maybe I need some. Do not go directly towards a drug, including over the counter. This is harmful, and it could be addictive because it is a drug. It's not natural. So there are portions of it that are liver toxic, kidney toxic, but also like Tylenol PM, with all due respect, has Tylenol, acetaminophen. And if you're taking 2 or 3 of those every night for 20 plus nights a month, you're taking acetaminophen and then you drink perhaps with it. I mean, your liver is asking for a reset eventually, right? And we don't know until we're hurt. So, go ahead.
I was going to say chronic use of ibuprofen, even these days, they've come out with more and more studies saying, turns out if you're chronically using ibuprofen, it's actually a very toxic thing to do. So we think that because it's cheap, it's over the counter, it's been around a while, it's okay to take 1 or 2 a day. It's not. It's certainly not when we're talking weeks at a time and months at a time. And the other thing I keep wanting to add to your statement of people who want to grab a coffee after lunch or something like that, the number one thing that I always come back to is I tell people and myself, as tempting as it may be after that long afternoon meeting and you had lunch to go grab that cup of coffee, if you'll just make a rule that you have to walk outside for 10 minutes, and if you still need the coffee, get it. I have yet to go back and get a cup of coffee. If I just get up and walk outside for 10 minutes, if it's cold, if it's raining, whatever, I get up and walk around for 10 minutes and I come back to my desk and I find that I go, I don't need the coffee. What I needed was to get up, move around, get outside. I've been staring at a screen, staring at a Zoom call, or staring at the person across from the table, just going, I'm stuck. And the coffee is our go-to because it's so convenient. So that's my digression on that.
One of the biggest things I like to do, and I was told this by a patient of mine who was in his 90s who looked like he was in his 60s. He said, after lunch, doc, even if it's pouring rain outside, walk back and forth in your office for 15 minutes. Go for a walk. If it's great weather, perfect. If it's snowing and pouring, back and forth in your home, go up down the stairs 15 times. Do some activity after you eat so you don't become so lethargic and have to grab that cup of coffee. And that really hit home for me. These are the basic little things that we can do that, just to make that push to be able to have a better sleep at night, to be able to live healthier lives and more energy the next day, right?
Yes. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was the first person, and I was at a big company at the time. I was the first person who insisted on getting a standing desk. And I really wanted a treadmill desk, but I was getting a standing desk. Now that I've been on one, I mean, you see, I'm standing for this interview. I sit down now at work, and I'm not prescribing this to other people, but if you stand at least half the day, you will find your energy so much better, especially after lunch when your food's digesting and you sit there and you start typing. It's easy to start to see why people go, I got to go get a cup of coffee. I'm crashing here. Or a sugary treat just to give them that big hit to get them through, or a can of soda. So I think motion, it creates emotion. And when you're trying to take control of your energy, stand up, walk around, do things. Don't just think it's going to come to you magically. And as you know, that it's that third or fourth cup of coffee that comes with the dire consequences of a bigger crash, decrease in your sleep, which is an atrophy into the next day, which causes you to be even more tired the next day. And you're just hoping the whole time, well, hopefully I'll catch up on Saturday.
Right. And one of the biggest things also is that we have discussed is dry mouth. Dry mouth can come from alcohol, coffee, but it also can come from some of the medications that we're having to take, such as, right? Yeah. And these medications that dry the mouth have a higher tendency to make the tongue kind of stick more back to the roof, the soft palate that we were discussing earlier, causing more snoring and apnea issues and poor sleep. Hydration, that doesn't mean you down a liter of water right before you fall asleep. Throughout the day, I mean, I have an app on my phone that says drink water. Every 3 hours, it reminds me. And I stand up when I do my dentistry. By the way, I don't sit down. 20 plus years, I stand up. You do not want me to sit down after a meal at lunchtime and work on you. You want me to be standing. You want me to be awake. You want me to be aware. Same thing for you. So after eating, if you can stand at your desk for a little bit or go for a walk, it's ideal. But dry mouth is a big thing. So drink throughout the day as much water as you can, minimum 2 liters a day throughout the day. There's also these something called biotene, Biotene.
Yep.
They have a mouthwash, and they have these moisturizing drops as well that can help before you fall asleep. If you do have dry mouth, you rinse with it after ear flossing and brushing, called biotene. And it can help about 20-25%, giving you a little bit more lubrication or wetness in your mouth so you don't have that dryness that can affect your sleep as well.
Okay, I will be sure to put links to those in the show notes as well as to your supplement. And this was pure gold. If you're anything like me and you're struggling with sleep, you know that you're missing out on a critical part of life. Is there any? I know you if you'll give your Instagram handle again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know my Instagram handle, Rad Health Inc., RAD Health INC. I actually personally answer all the DMs. So if y'all have any questions, any help with home sleep testing, the supplements, the jaw pain, anything that you ever were wondering, I usually typically answer it within the day. I do see patients all day as well. But I am always trying to be out there, help you guys get better sleep. So, God forbid you don't have any sort of a medical issue, let alone fall asleep at the wheel one night like I did and crash your car.
I love it. I love it. Well, man, I appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And I'll also make sure that I share some of the other supplements that you have for people with TMJ and jaw issues as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Daniel. I really appreciate you doing great work. I'm really happy and honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh, nice plug. Appreciate that.